All right, we're live. So good afternoon, everybody. It is the Friday afternoon live chat here at EnviroGuard. Thanks for coming back. If you've been with us before, you kind of know the format. We're going to go through information, but today I'm going to be solo, and we're going to be talking about sprayers and everything surrounding sprayers. So from very manual sprayers all the way through electric and things in between like foggers. So we want to make sure that we give you some good information so that you can make the choice that's best for your operations. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little sprayer that I saw in an attic space a couple years ago, and I want to go through each of these sprayers in terms of what's good about them, but what's also bad about them, again, so that you make the right choice. So the first thing, I'm sure you all have seen this before, is just this little handheld pump up, right? It holds about a gallon of product, and it's okay. It's a disposable sprayer. You can, of course, change how much your flow rate in terms of your tip right here. It is going to give you a conical spray. So ideally, when you are spraying something that's water thin, it works better if you are spraying a flat fan instead of a cone. This is going to give you a very round cone, whereas a fan pattern would give you a very flat but broad and precise pattern to the surface. So just be aware that if you're looking at this, there are some downsides to the spray pattern itself. The reason is that you're actually spraying the surface with a conical fan pattern twice, and you can get an awful lot of dripping and things of that nature. Now, obviously, when you're in a tight, confined space, or if you are in just a very small job, something like this can work. However, what I noticed when I was talking to technicians and working with them in that attic space is that they were really underpowered for the space that we were in. Okay, what they should have been was they should have moved up to something that was much more efficient for the larger space that we were working in, and that was evidence of they were spending about half their time pumping the sprayer to keep to give it enough pressure so that they could continue to spray. All right, so it was very inefficient for this for the size space that we were in, and I think that that's the point about each of these, and whether it's a chemical product that we're talking about or whether it's a piece of equipment, you have to line up that piece of equipment in this case to what is best for the space that you're in. So it's not about the tool ever being a bad tool. It's about, is the tool right for the job? And in the case of the attic, it wasn't right for the job. If we were just doing a little bathroom space or something like that, might not be a problem at all. Okay, now the thing about a sprayer like this is not only is it very manual and you've got to pump it up and that sort of thing, but if we were to run through what you want to use it with, like let's think about pairings as well, because that's going to be an important part of this as we get on in this discussion today. When you're pairing this with something, it's got to be water thin. This is not going to push anything viscous through it, okay? So think about things like Knockdown, right, could be paired with it. Certainly Botanical could be paired with it. Let's see here. Deutrion, right, our new disinfectant could be paired with this pretty easily. Touch Point, right, for keeping surfaces clean long-term. Touch Point is water thin and could be paired with it. What else do we have here? Oh, that's Botanical again. Even something like Fortify could be paired with this. This is for after flood damage and things of that nature. We'll talk about this in relationship to larger equipment later on. Okay, so this has limitations. It has uses, but it has definite limitations to small jobs. All right, let's go into the next one, number 2 here. Thanks, Grayson. Okay, so this is your traditional pump-up sprayer, right? This is the cheap $15, $20, $25 sprayer that you're going to find at any big box, and everybody's used to this. And this also has some upsides and some downsides. Now, this is great, again, if you're on a small job, but in terms of head pressure, you really can't build a lot of longevity in your spraying before you have to pump it up again. And what we see is that a lot of technicians will lose somewhere between 30 and 50% of their time to just pressurizing these systems as compared to if you were to move up to a better sprayer, okay? So we'll walk through that. But this does give you a little bit more volume, right? It's nice because you can stay stable. You've got somewhat of a base, so it can stay on the ground. You're not having to just have it lifted and carrying it with you everywhere. It does suffer maybe from a little bit of a short cord, right? You can't go too far. It's kind of tethered to you nonstop. And a real limitation of these tends to be the tip. These are probably, even while you have control here in your adjustment, these we've found to be worse. You don't have a whole lot of control or adjustment here. A lot of times you get very inconsistent patterns. So then you're only treating parts of surfaces. You have to go over those surfaces several times to get the application that you're looking for. So there's a couple upsides to this, but by and large, it's probably not the best product if you're looking for a pump-up sprayer, okay? They are disposable, though. So if you want something that's cheap, 20, 25 bucks from your a local store or something like that, and you're just committed to, hey, I'm going to be just throwing these things away, then maybe it's an option for you. All right, let's check out the backpack. All right, I'm sure everybody's seen something like this before. This is a backpack setup, okay? Now this one is manual. Of course, you can get these electric. This is just one, again, meant for pests and fertilizers and things of that nature. But the great thing about this product is that it's on your back, right? At least you're not carrying it with you. It's a little more convenient. Even if it's manual, it's a little faster to keep it pressurized while you're using it. In this case, with your right arm, and then you can be spraying with this. If you can kind of control that at the same time, it holds more product. The downside is that if you're in a confined space, it's not going to do you any more good than any other pump-up sprayer. Really, you got to take it off your back. So think crawl spaces and things like that, not ideal for. But attic spaces it would work better in. And of course, basements and things of that nature, or exteriors. If you're doing any exterior restoration, think in terms of, where do I have it here? Fortify? Is Fortify over there? No? Okay. Well, let's do this. Think in terms of X4, right? For exterior restoration and things of that nature, you need to make sure that you're, minimizing water intrusion from the outside of a substrate or something of that nature, brick and mortar, stone and mortar, aggregates, foundations, where wind-driven moisture is an issue and you want to be able to move quickly through the job. Something like this where you're standing up and able to move more quickly, that's going to bring efficiency to the job, okay? All right. Now, a downside I would say about this is this lance here, if you want to call it a lance, is only so long, right? So if we're talking about a basement, if we're talking about an attic space, when you need to get down into the, I can't think of what it's called right now, where no, we're talking about the attic. Anyway, when you need to get down into spaces that are unreachable, this has limitations. If you're working somewhat overhead, right, out in front of you, this also has limitations. You got to, stretch and reach and things of that nature. There's no adapter or anything that can go with this. And that's the same for the previous two sprayers as well. You've just got reach limitations, all right? Now, let's go to the next sprayer. All right, this is a sprayer that we debuted last year. Now, this gives you some things that are both good and bad about everything that we've just seen. But let me walk you through them because this could be an option for you. Now, it's a pretty robust design, okay? So as we look at this, it has a flat base. It allows it to be stable on the surface, right? Stable on the surface. If you look at, this is an important aspect, if you look at all of these pieces, these can be changed out if you break something, right? So this isn't a disposable sprayer anymore. It's more expensive, but it's not disposable, which could be a key over time that you're not throwing things away and just losing them. You'll also notice right here, let me see if I can get a good shot of that. See that right there? That is a pressure release. So as you're pumping this, or as a technician's pumping this, it's going to release pressure once it hits 50 PSI, okay? 50 PSI is an important number. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but just so you're knowledgeable, 50 PSI is about as high as you want to go when you are spraying thin products, like water thin products. Okay, so that's your pressure release right there. It also includes a little handy dandy pedal that right underneath it, this is going to hold extra tips, okay? So if you need to switch out from let's say a 0.2 gallon per minute and choke down to a 0.05 gallon per minute, or you need to go from a 40-degree fan pattern to an 80-degree or 110-degree fan pattern, once you start getting into something a little nicer like this, it's going to give you the ability to do that. Your limitations are still that this is only so long, right? We can only go so long on something that's plastic like this. So you're still not going to get all the reach out of it that you're looking for. But if you want to have something that gives you a really good flat fan pattern, you don't have to worry about spurting and sputtering and inconsistencies. This has a real tip in it, right? An interchangeable tip that you can go up and down in terms of your output and things of that nature. So it's a great little unit, not too expensive, about $150, and you can replace all of these parts, okay? So that is a pump up sprayer. Oh, by the way, you can get a lot more head pressure on this. So whereas we might lose 30 to 50% of your labor to another one of these types of sprayers that you're always pumping, this, you're probably talking more like 20 to 30% less efficient than like an electric system, okay? So think of this as just a step up from what we were talking about before. Now, here you go. Let's talk about foggers for a second, okay? There's two ways to use a fogger, and we'll define that as directional and non-directional. Directional meaning that we are fogging at a substrate if we are directionally fogging. If we're non-directionally fogging, in other words, into an environment to actually create a fog, then we're just non-directionally fogging it, right? It's pointing into the atmosphere as opposed to at a surface, okay? So let's talk about some upsides and downsides of the fogger. The first thing is that you have to consider what products are foggable and which ones are not. So if we're talking about non-directionally fogging into an atmosphere, then make sure that the product that you're using has fogging instructions on the label. So for example, Botanical, our thymol-based antimicrobial, has fogging instructions on the label, okay? But a product like Deuterion, okay, is not a product that you would fog into an area, okay? That is a minimum risk antimicrobial, minimum risk antimicrobial. This is a fully registered, EPA registered N-list product, right? So you have to, there's trade-offs with everything, and know where those trade-offs are and what you're looking to accomplish. Now, if we are using this directionally, then what we have to be concerned with is output. This is only going to handle, like all of these sprayers that we're talking about right now, are only going to handle water-thin product. So if we are directionally fogging at a surface, and let's say we are, I use the word fogging in this case loosely because really we're spraying. If we're going to spray using this fogger, Deuterion, then what we're probably going to need to do is open this up a little bit and get a little heavier mist from the system so that we can get the dwell time that we're looking for. So for example, in its 100 part per million dilution, we're getting 5-minute dwell time. At its 400 part per million dilution, we're getting a 1-minute dwell time. So the connection between how much product, in this case, in the case of a disinfectant that goes on the surface, is not coverage rate. How many feet per gallon can you go? It's actually dwell time that's the most important thing. So keep that in mind when you're making adjustments to your systems here, that you want to make sure that you get enough product on the surface so that it is wet. Your wet contact time matches up with your labeling instructions, okay? This is also great non-directionally for products like Knockdown so that you can fog that into the atmosphere, build to 100% humidity in the atmosphere, and then knock all of those contaminants that are airborne to the surface and to the ground for easy cleanup during the remediation process. So this has some benefits to it. Another limitation is it's just a unit, right? You don't have any real way to move away from this, so you're forced to carry this, which holds at least a gallon, a gallon and a half, which is going to become heavy over time, right? So there are some downsides to that, but it does have a fairly good adjustment on here. Your output, you can get very consistent output with it. So there are some good things about the system, like all systems, right? So as we are moving up in terms of space size, think about, in our progression here, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We went from a handheld like this in small spaces, but it's adding extra labor, but you're not having to do the clean out of big systems and that sort of thing. And now we're at a fogging unit like this. That's electric. You're not going to have to pump it up, right? So you're not losing any labor there. But like we said, there's some downsides to it as well. All right, let's move along and go to our next electric unit. Can you swivel over here and look at me? All right. So this is the BTM system. Just point the camera up at me. I'll bring everything into focus. Okay, so now we're talking a full electric system that rather than being able to handle one product at a time, now we can handle 2 products at a time. Okay, whatever 2 products that are water thin that you want to handle. Okay, so that could be like we have our react extract system, right, where we're applying OxyPrep, our stain mitigator, to begin with, and then we're reacting that against our OxyPar to reduce the amount of time that it takes to remediate an area. That's one way that products can be used together for mold services. We can even add into that mix, you see here, oh, here it is. We can even add into that 2-product mix a 3rd product, which is our grease gobbler product. We're going to be having a contest on renaming this, by the way, so FYI, there's some free product in it for you, maybe a sprayer to go along with it if you help us choose the right name, because as you're going to find out in a second, we can do our react extract system for fire damage to remove soot from surfaces so that you don't have to use a dry sponge, and we can save you an awful lot of labor, but that would be a 50-50 combination of prep and grease gobbler, followed by the reaction of OxyPar. And now, again, we've got a very efficient 2-part system on 2 handles, right? So we're able to handle 2 products, in this case 3 products, through 1 technician. Highly efficient. Again, you've got the benefit of an electric sprayer, so there's no pumping, and there's a couple additional benefits you want to think about. Now, all of your systems are outside of the space you're working in, right? The unit, the chemicals, everything is outside the space that you're working in, and all that you have are these 2 handles with you. So now you don't have to worry about clutter and knocking things over and everything else. This is what you have to work with, and you can use lances with it, right? So lances are a big deal because now this is finally going to give you the reach that you're looking for, right? Whether it's you got a really low slung crawl space and you need to reach out in front of you and draw back to get the chemical application that you're looking for, you're in attic space or whatever, you can benefit from all of that. Another thing that this begins to give you is quick connects, right? Fast ways of changing out every single piece and part, including those lances I was talking about, your guns. It makes for easy breakdown or setup of your entire system all the way down to the unit itself, okay? So as you go up and invest more in equipment, you're going to get more and more efficiency out of that equipment, which is going to increase your profitability. But again, this isn't for small little jobs. We wouldn't go into a little, bathroom or something of that nature and probably take this with us. This is your crawl spaces, your guts after all the hurricanes that everybody's about to get involved with this hurricane season. This is for your attic spaces, your basements, things of that nature, okay? So one other thing, speaking of hurricanes coming up, is that you ought to be aware of efficiency when it comes to hurricane season. So you might need an antimicrobial like our botanical, which would work perfectly with this, or Deuterion, right? Depending if you want to go with a regular disinfectant or you want to go with a minimum risk product like our botanical product. And then you know how it is. You're moving, you're turning and burning on these jobs, and they may not get as dry as you want them to. So we formulated a product that is water thin, that is going to give you a durable but antimicrobial infused product that allows you to go right behind all of your work before you do your build back and it will prevent any mold from growing on those substrates, even if they are a little wetter than you would prefer, okay? So that would work perfectly with one spray system, right? The key to that, what I was talking about there, is now you're not using like airless sprayers and those sorts of things to go at and having specialty pieces of equipment on jobs, right? You got one piece of equipment for everything that you're doing during hurricane season. And again, that's good for you so that you just have to focus on having that one piece of equipment. All right, let's go to the other camera now. I'm going to step over here. You ready?
Just a second.
I need you to get a little closer to me. Take it to a single screen, please. Of cleaners, antimicrobials, disinfectants, water-thin sealants, okay? All of those sorts of things you should be working at a lower PSI level with, all right? Now, what you do want to be using in this sprayer are coatings. It's called an airless paint sprayer to begin with, okay? So let me just give you an idea of this. Would you step back just a little bit so I can jump in here? So what products should you be working with? Well, if you're doing something in a basement or crawl space, you need a moisture control afterward that's clear, that prevents mold growth on surfaces, that imparts moisture controls on those surfaces, but that's breathable, then go with like a clear guard. If you're looking for a white product, go with a Max Guard. If you are looking to seal surfaces from wicking moisture through the foundation wall, right, seepage, then you're going to go with a product like Masonry Guard. If you are doing new construction build back, by that I mean, if you're doing new construction and you're working with builders and you want to put down a durable mold and moisture resistant product, or you're working with IEPs, industrial hygienists, things of that nature, and you need something that is visible on the surface, but that they can inspect to make sure that that surface is visibly clean and dust-free per ICRCS 520 guidelines, then you're looking for Safeguard. And if you're doing something where you're sealing for odor after a fire job or pet odor job or something of that nature, then you want to get into something like VaporLock Clear, VaporLock White, that sort of thing. So a airless sprayer is definitely for your heavy, viscous products. Another thing you want to keep in mind about the airless spray system is that you don't want to use, and this goes back to the thinner side of things, you don't want to use anything that would be considered an oxidizer through these systems. They're made primarily of aluminum, and that over time that's going to pit, and you're going to start to have leaks and things of that nature, and you're going to turn it into a throwaway tool. So anything that is peroxide-based, sodium hypochlorite-based, chlorine dioxide-based, you don't want to put that through these types of systems, or you'll just pit them and ruin them over time. Okay, let's go back to camera one. Can you point this over here? I didn't know I had to be my own director. All right. So we talked a lot today about going from your handheld systems all the way through your electric systems and how and why you would want to use those. But ultimately, you're going to make the choice for what's going to be most efficient and effective on the job that you're doing. I would suggest that you probably need multiple tools or multiple arrows in your quiver based upon the type of job that you're up against. And then you're going to select that tool for the job that you're up against. It's not that one is necessarily better for all across the board. Like I was saying before, the BTM sprayer would be a horrible choice on an extremely small job because you're going to be taking so much time just to clean it up and everything afterward. Sometimes this little guy right here is going to be all that you need on the very smallest of jobs. But really take some time to consider with your technicians, your supervisors and things going into each and every job, what equipment that you're using, because it's going to be just as important as the product that you're using. So do we have any questions or anything that I can answer for the live stream? Nope. Well, thanks again for joining us this week. Next week, I'm going to be up in Kentucky and Indiana and down in Winston-Salem and things like that. So we won't be having a live stream next week, but we will be having a live stream the following week, and we'll let you know what that topic is as soon as we can. Thanks a lot for joining us. Bye-bye.